fans, welcome to another episode of Fear the Bay, where your support makes all other 31 teams fear the Bay. I'm your host, Dana Morales, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Buccaneers content. Last episode, we started to create the ultimate 53-man roster from the Jason Licht era, so that's 2014 all the way to now, and we selected 24 offensive players. We're going to construct, today we're going to finalize a full 53-man roster. So last time we went over the offense. If you haven't checked out that episode yet, please go over and watch that episode now so you're caught up. But I'm going to give you guys a recap here. But if you want the full explanation for why I selected certain players over others, please go over and watch that episode. But last episode, we selected 24 offensive players, 2 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 6 wide receivers, 3 tight ends, 2 left tackles, 2 left guards, 2 centers, 2 right guards, and 2 right tackles. We also assembled a coaching staff, so it had Bruce Arians as our head coach. We have Thad Lewis as our offensive coordinator, and I explained last episode that he is our offensive coordinator, even though he's a quarterback's coach, has never been an offensive coordinator, but he's been around for the Bruce Arians days with the vertical passing scheme. He's been along for the Dave Canales days, the Liam Cohen days, and now he's around for the Josh Grizzard days, and I would advocate for him if Josh Grizzard goes on after this season or after next season and becomes a head coach in this league. I would advocate for Thad Lewis to be that internal candidate for the Buccaneers to promote and make their next offensive coordinator. Todd Bowles we had as our defense coordinator. Of course, he was very fundamental. He was a big fundamental part in the Buccaneers winning Super Bowl 55 and really destroying the Kansas City Chiefs. And I have current special teams coordinator Thomas McGahee as our special teams coordinator. Last episode, again, we selected 24 offensive players. We had Tom Brady, of course, as our QB1, the GOAT. Our backup quarterback, our QB2, and who's waiting for Tom Brady to retire to eventually take his spot and become our starting quarterback for many more years, is Baker Mayfield. So again, Tom Brady, QB1, Baker Mayfield, QB2. At the running back position, we had Bucky Irving, the phenomenal rookie from last year from Oregon. He's going to be our RB1. We have a three-headed monster here. You have Rachaad White, who's really good in the pass blocking game and also the pass catching game. He's a really good third down back. And we have Doug Martin, the muscle hamster, as our RB3, who had a really good rookie season and a really good 2015. Both of those seasons, he had over 1,400 rushing yards. So if we're getting prime muscle hamster, we're getting a very solid RB3. Whoever has a hot hand in that game, let's give him the ball. At wide receiver, we had Mike Evans as our wide receiver 1, of course. You can't go wrong with Mike Evans, and that is a no-brainer. He was the first draft pick of Jason Licht, and it really worked out. Imagine becoming a general manager, and your very first draft pick is on the path to become a Hall of Famer in this league, and I think without question he will be a Hall of Famer in this league. So we got Mike Evans on one side. We got Vincent Jackson, who I selected as our wide receiver 2, on the other side. We got Chris Godwin in the slot as our wide receiver 3. And as a wide receiver 4 and 5, I selected Emeka Egbuka. We haven't seen him play so far in the NFL, but he's a very promising young talent, I believe. I believe him and who I selected as our wide receiver 5, Jalen McMillan, are the 2 future wide receiver 1 and 2 for this team, for this Buccaneers roster, once Chris Godwin and Mike Evans retire. And for a wide receiver 6, I decided not to go with guys like Antonio Brown and Deshaun Jackson. I explained in the last episode. I decided to go with a speedster, Scotty Miller, who is going to be okay not receiving the ball, but Scotty Miller comes out as our wide receiver 6, and we've seen in the past. Think about the Las Vegas Raiders game. Think about the Packers game in the playoffs against, I believe he was up against Kevin King as the cornerback for the Packers. But Tom Brady knows how to hit Scotty Miller deep, and he's going to be our quarterback 1, and Scotty Miller is going to be our wide receiver 6, ready to go catch those deep passes down the field. 20, 30, 40 plus yards down the field. All right, our tight ends. Of course, this was a no-brainer from the Jason Licht era. Who's the best tight end of all time? In my opinion, that's Rob Gronkowski. He's our tight end 1. Imagine his career if he never got injured. If he was just always healthy, what those numbers would look like. But Rob Gronkowski is our tight end 1. As our tight end 2, we have Cameron Brate, he's a really underrated a player for the Buccaneers for many years. Never got really a lot of national spotlight, but he's a very underrated player. He's really a red zone, end zone threat for the Buccaneers. Receive a lot of touchdowns in that area. And Cade Otton, who I believe is a really reliable option as a tight end, who is a solid starter for this Buccaneers roster. We'll see at the end of the season, or maybe even before, if the Buccaneers decide to re-sign him, as he is in a contract year. At left tackle, we selected Tristan Wirfs. That's a no-brainer as our starting left tackle. As the backup left tackle, we have Donovan Smith, who, again, you might get some holding penalties along the way, but he'll provide you enough protection for your quarterback. Left guard, we have Ali Marpet, who is one of the best Buccaneers offensive linemen besides Tristan Wirfs, who Jason Licht has drafted. We got Ali Marpet as our starter. You got Logan Mankins, who was the veteran who the Buccaneers traded for from the Patriots. At center, we have Ryan Jensen as our starter, Graham Barton as our backup center. At right guard, we have Alex Kappa and Cody Mauch. Cody Mauch will be our starter at right guard. And in right tackle, to finish out the offense, we have DeMar Dotson as our starting right tackle, who was a bright spot for the Buccaneers offensive line for many years during those very low-performing seasons for the Bucs. And we have Luke Gadecki as our backup right tackle. Either one of those guys can be your starter, I believe. But I go with DeMar Dotson as our starter there. All right, so today we're going to focus on the defensive side and special teams. So we're going to finish out this 53-man roster. On defense, we're going to select a total of 4 defensive ends. We're going to select 2 nose tackles, 6 edge rushers, 4 inside linebackers, and we're going to select a total of 6 cornerbacks. 2 really would be for the nickelback position, and a total of 4 safeties. And we're also going to select, for special teams, we're going to select 1 kicker, 1 punter, and 1 long snapper. So let's get started with our defensive ends. So throughout the years, under the Jason Licht era, we've had quite a few defensive ends. Gerald McCoy, he would have been, he played in a 4-3, but in this 3-4 scheme, he would have been defensive end. Or categorized as sort of like a defensive end. So Gerald McCoy, you got Willem Ghostin, who was a longtime Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He was the longest tenured Buccaneer for some time. We got Michael Johnson, who was the free agent signing in Jason Licht's first year from the Cincinnati Bengals. Didn't work out. Jacquez Smith, if you remember that. So it's going through so many of these names, like I talked about last episode. This is a very good trip down memory lane for Bucs fans. We didn't win much football in those earlier Jason Licht years, but just remembering those names, hearing them, and just remembering the time period and, all the hope that Buccaneers fans had, but just never, came to fruition. But now it would be, 5 years in a row that the Buccaneers have been to playoffs. And if we get to playoffs this year, it'll be 6 years in a row, 5 straight NFC South division titles. Just think about that. After all the years of the Buccaneers not, winning, being the Succaneers, the losingest franchise in all of American sports, like professional sports at the time for many years until Tom Brady came in. Just a really good, nice trip down memory lane to hear some of these names again and just get memories of this time period. Robert Ayers, who was a veteran at the time, and Ndamukong Suh, who was really good for the Buccaneers during that playoff run, Super Bowl run. Akeem Hicks, who was, came from the Bears, was a bit injured when he was here. Kalijah Cansey, of course, and Logan Hall. We're going to select 4 defensive ends to play in this 3-4 scheme with Todd Bowles as our defensive coordinator. Let's go with Kalijah Cansey as our, one of our starters there. I really like Kalijah Cansey. He's a really good pass rusher. And early on in both seasons, he's suffered injuries, but I hope this year, throughout training camp, throughout the preseason, throughout the, hopefully the entire regular season, he'll stay healthy. And we will really get a chance to see what can Kalijah Cansey do when he's fully healthy. How many sacks can he gain? I believe he stated in a recent press conference that he believes his goal is to have the most sacks in the league. And Todd Bowles was asked about that, and he thinks, I believe the quote was like, it's possible, but he believes he will have a lot of sacks. He will have, I can't remember the exact number, but I believe possibly like 10 plus double digit sacks for him. We have Logan Hall, of course, I talked about, and Ndamukong Suh. I'll have Ndamukong Suh as our other starting defensive end in this 3-4 scheme. So we have Kalijah Kancey and we have Ndamukong Suh. We got to select 2 more as our backups. I'll go with Jared McCoy. He will play. He never played in 3-4 in Tampa, but we'll have him here as a 3-4 defensive end. And then who else can we go with? So now I'm down between William Golston and basically the new William Golston, Logan Hall. Logan Hall has had some ups and downs. He looks like he's maybe turning a corner. He's a promising young talent. And William Golston started off his career also a bit slowly. But I'm gonna go William Golston. You know what you're getting from William. You're getting a really good run stopper, really a reliable depth piece. He was a starter for a few years for the Buccaneers also. So I'm going to go with William Golston to finish out our defensive ends. So we have Kalijah Kancey, we have Ndamukong Suh as our 2 starters, and behind them as their backups, we got Jared McCoy and we got William Golston. So really good group of defensive ends. Kalijah Kancey, he can get to the quarterback. We know Ndamukong Suh can also, but he's really good also against the run. Jared McCoy, William Golston also. Jared McCoy can get to the quarterback. He's a good pass rusher. Was never a top end, NFL pass rusher. As a defensive tackle in a 4-3 scheme, but I think he'll be a really good piece here for us as a backup quality depth. This is a guy who was a face of the franchise for many years, and in this scenario, he will be a backup defensive end. Nose tackle, this one's pretty simple. Of course, who's going to be our starting nose tackle? That's going to be Vita Vea. 6'5", 340 plus. Or 6'4", 340 plus, really big guy. He's going to be our starting nose tackle. He's been really good for the Buccaneers ever since the Buccaneers drafted him. He had a kind of a little slow rookie season. I believe right before the 49ers game in his rookie season in 2018, he had a one-on-one interview with Jason Licht, the general manager, and they were talking about his performance so far and what he needs to improve on. And I believe that was really useful for his career, because after that interview, I believe he became a bit more productive in that rookie year. But overall, we know what Vita Vea offers. He's been at times the leading sack gainer for this team. So Vita Vea, of course, as our starting nose tackle. You can also do here. You got Bo Allen, who you got Bo Allen. You got Akeem Hicks, and you got Greg Gaines. Not really good options. Akeem Smith too. I would go with Greg Gaines. He's not a very good. Not a big Greg Gaines guy, but I believe that he's reliable enough to have as a backup nose tackle whenever Vita Vea needs a breather. Greg Gaines comes in and he'll provide enough of not really good sack production, but he'll provide enough against the run where you feel okay, subbing Vita Vea out. All right, so our edge rushers, our outside linebackers, throughout the years, you've had guys like Shaq Barrett, who was really good free agent signing from Denver for Jason Licht. He had 19 and a half sacks for the Buccaneers in his breakout year. Jason Pierre-Paul. Of course, Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, JTS, who is now with the Cleveland Browns, was never able really to become that sack guy for the Buccaneers. He had all the potential in the world, all the athleticism, but he was a really raw talent coming in and was never able to really get to the quarterback. He was always almost there, but never really got to the quarterback. Anthony Nelson, Carl Nassib, Yaya Diaby, Chris Braswell, David Walker. So we're going to pick 6 of these guys. And Haason Reddick, also the free agent signing from the New York Jets. The Buccaneers signed him over the offseason. As our starters, I'm going to pick our 2 Super Bowl edge rushers who were really good that season and really got to Patrick Mahomes in that Super Bowl game quite a lot. So Shaq Barrett, without question, Shaq Barrett and Jason Pierre-Paul would be our starting edge rushers there. So we got our 2. Who's going to be behind them? I'll pick Haason Reddick, who has been, a 10 plus, 12 plus sack guy throughout his career. Not last year, of course, with that whole issue with the contract holdout with the New York Jets, but I would pick Haason Reddick. I believe he's going to have a redemption year this year. He's going to come back stronger. He's already provided a lot of veteran leadership during mandatory minicamp for the young pass rushers in that room. So I'm excited to see what can Haason Reddick do for the real Tampa Bay Buccaneers this upcoming season. But I believe he'll provide a lot of good quality depth for the Buccaneers in this fake 53-man roster that we're constructing here. So we got Shaq Barrett, we got JPP, and we got Haason Reddick. I like Yaya Diaby. I believe he's a guy who's going to continue to mature, continue to get better as a pass rusher. He has Haason Reddick now, a veteran who's going to help mold him. I believe he has a lot of potential if he kind of improves his arsenal in terms of his pass rush arsenal. I remember that rookie year, he was kind of just trying to power through guys. If he improves with Haason Reddick alongside him, molding him, help him out, and now Larry Foote as his outside linebacker coach, I think it's going to help out his career quite a bit. So again, we have Shaq Barrett, JPP, Haason Reddick, and Yaya Diaby. We need two more guys. David Walker, we haven't seen him yet. Let's see, I'm between David Walker, Anthony Nelson, who provides good quality depth for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Let's see. Chris Braswell, second round pick last year from Alabama. Let's go with we can go Anthony Nelson. If you know where you're going to get at him, you're not going to get a top digit, 10 plus sack guy. But who we don't know is Chris Braswell, really, and David Walker. We don't know what they can provide. Can they be superstar pass rushers, or at least solid pass rushers for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? We don't know. But let's see in this scenario, let's add them in. There will be, far down the depth chart, all the way at the bottom. But they can continue to be molded by the veterans in that room. Not only will Yaya Diaby and these young pass rushers have Haason Reddick like they do in real life now, but they will have in this scenario, they would also have Shaq Barrett and JPP also helping them out and molding them and helping them become really good quality pass rushers for this team. So again, starters, we have Shaq Barrett and JPP. They helped us gain a Super Bowl, again, our second Super Bowl in franchise history, and for that Super Bowl run in 2020. You have Yaya Diaby and Haason Reddick behind them, and behind Haason Reddick and Yaya Diaby, you have the two young pass rushers, Chris Braswell and David Walker, right behind them. I feel really good about this room. This room would be, if you had this team actually as a real team on defense so far, they will be a Super Bowl contender every year, but of course, isn't that how real football works? This is kind of more like a Madden scenario. At inside linebacker, we're going to select 4 inside linebackers throughout the years with Jason Licht. They've had guys like, of course, Lavonte David, who might be in his final year this year. We'll see. But every year is kind of a year by year. He takes it year by year. Mason Foster, Danny Lansana. I remember that game against the Steelers, and Le'Veon Bell got a first down, and he did his little, his little finger point, and Danny Lansana put his hand down. He slapped his hand down. Quan Alexander, who was promising for a bit, but he suffered torn ACL. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers decided not to re-sign him. Darryl Smith, who was the veteran from the Baltimore Ravens. Kendall Beckwith, who also had an injury that really hindered his career. Devontae Bond, who was a late-round pick. Darius Taylor, Jack Sitchie. You had Devin White, who helped us win the Super Bowl in 2020, who had a really, really good rookie season. Wasn't really too good against the pass, but could get to the quarterback. Devin White would be a guy that I would, if we're getting 2020 rookie prime Devin White, I would put him on this roster. Noah Dawkins, Savasi Dennis, who I really like and the Buccaneers really like. Lavonte David talked about he might be that next, great Tampa Bay Buccaneers linebacker. Tyke Smith talked about Savasi Dennis as a guy who he already sees as a game changer. Savasi Dennis, of course, had the shoulder injury last year, but if he can stay healthy, I'm excited to see what can he provide for this Tampa Bay Buccaneers team as a full-time starter. You had KJ Britt, who went over to the Miami Dolphins over the offseason, guys who were a good backup quality depth. You had J.J. Russell, Antonio Greer Jr. We now have Deion Jones as a backup linebacker on this team too. So I got to select 4 inside linebackers. I don't think it's a question that Lavonte David is going to be our starter, our star inside linebacker. Who's going to be starting next to him? So I'm between Devin White. If we're getting, again, rookie Devin White, Super Bowl run. 2019 and 2020, first 2 years of Devin White. If we're getting those first 2 years, I would select Devin White. And you got Savassi Dennis, who we haven't seen for a full season, but we did see Devin White for quite a few seasons. Again, if we're getting those first 2 years of Devin White in his career, I'm selecting Devin White. Let's go with Devin White for this scenario here. He's going to be starting alongside Lavonte David. If you remember, Devin White had a whole contract situation. Larry Foote talked about champagne problems. He posted on social media. He posted a few things on social media, but I remember one as, him in a Philadelphia Eagles uniform. And he went to the Eagles after the Tampa Bay Buccaneers didn't re-sign him. It didn't work out there with Vic Fangio as a defensive coordinator. I believe he's with the... Where is Devin White? Devin White is with possibly the Raiders right now. Let's see. Devin White. Where is Devin White? Yeah, Devin White is with the Raiders right now. He's with John Spytek, former assistant general manager who helped draft Devin White in 2019. So he's with the Raiders now. Hopefully he can stick on the 53-man roster, and we'll see what he can do with the rest of his career. But I wish him nothing but the best of luck. So we have Lavonte David and Devin White. I'm going to go with Savassi Dennis as our backup behind those two guys. Can really probably challenge also Devin White for a starting position. Who else do we have here? We got Deion Jones. We got Kendall Beckwith. We got Quan Alexander. KJ Britt, who's really good against the run. Let's see. Mason Foster. I'm going to go with... This one's hard right here. I'm going to go with... Let's go with Deion Jones. He brings... If he has to come in, he has a lot of veteran experience. He was a starter in this league for a very long time. Most notably with the Atlanta Falcons, was a big issue for the Buccaneers for many years. Went over to the Panthers, now with the Buccaneers. But I'm selecting. I believe he spent some time possibly with the Cleveland Browns. But I'm selecting Deion Jones to be our fourth inside linebacker. So again, we have Lavonte David starting alongside Devin White. And we have behind Lavonte David and Devin White as their backups. We got Savassi Dennis. We have Deion Jones. So let's move on now to corners. So we're going to pick 6 corners. 2 of these guys would be our nickel corners. So when Jason Licht came in, that first free agency year, he signed Antoine Winfield from the Tennessee Titans, and that it didn't end up working. We already had, Jonathan Banks here. Got, who else do we have? Brandon Dixon, Mike Jenkins, who was a veteran, played some time with the Cowboys. I believe we traded for him from the Steelers, the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2014. Leonard Johnson, you got guys like Sterling Moore, the veteran at the time. Jude Ajayi-Barima, who he got a few defensive pass interference penalties, some crucial moments. Brent Grimes from the Miami Dolphins. If you remember Brent Grimes earlier on in his career when he went up against Megatron, Calvin Johnson for the Detroit Lions, that was a good matchup there. The Buccaneers in 2016 drafted Vernon Hargreaves III out of Florida. The University of Florida. It didn't work out. There's sometimes appeared like low effort from Vernon Hargreaves. Real swaggy guy, but never was able to produce on the field. Carlton Davis, who the Buccaneers signed from drafted from the University of Auburn. Jamel Dean as well. Sean Murphy Bunting, all big parts of the Gravediggers. If you remember the Gravediggers, they're in that Super Bowl run. You got Ross Cockrell, we got D. Delaney, Zion McCollum, who is the current CB1 on this roster, Jacob Parrish, who the Buccaneers drafted this offseason, and also Benjamin Morrison, both of those young rookies that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers drafted. So we need to select 6 corners here. I'm going to go with, as our starters, this one's a bit hard because this is a bit challenging. Got, Jamel Dean has always been injury prone, but if he could stay healthy, he could be a really good corner. Carlton Davis, another issue there. He could never stay healthy. So we had, for a long time, two starters, Carlton Davis and Jamel Dean, who could never really stay healthy and be on the field at the same exact time. Benjamin Morrison, we haven't seen what he can do yet. Jacob Parrish, who has been everywhere on the field so far in mini camp and in the offseason OTAs. Let's go with Zion McCollum. Let's go with Zion McCollum. I like Zion McCollum. He's entering a contract year. He's very athletic, very fast. Can do everything you want. He's a leader. He's not a very vocal guy, but he brings a positive attitude to this team and to that defensive cornerback room. So we got our CB1 as Zion McCollum. Let's go with Let's go with Carlton Davis as the opposing CB2. So we have Zion McCollum as our CB1. Carlton Davis as our CB2. We're going to have a lot of depth, so you don't have to worry about Carlton Davis getting injured and Jamel Dean getting injured because we're going to have depth behind them. Jamel Dean as our CB3. Okay, so Jamel Dean is a guy who right now in real life is fighting to keep his job. He had a pick six during mandatory minicamp, according to Jenna Lane, against Baker Mayfield. He's a guy who feels that competition behind him with Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. So he's a guy who he's motivated entering this year. He knows this might be it for him as a starter, or even in Tampa if he doesn't, solidify his role as a starter and stay healthy. And Kevin Ross, the cornerbacks coach, wants him, of course, to come down with the ball to get these interceptions. So right now, those are our top three guys. We got Zion McCollum, Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean. Let's see, who's going to be let's go to nickel. Who's going to be our starting nickel? So during that Super Bowl run, of course, you had Sean Murphy-Bunting as the starting nickel. A bit of a slower guy, doesn't have necessarily that speed that you want. A lot of times he's trailing behind. Let's go with Jacob Parrish. We haven't seen Jacob Parrish yet, but everything you hear about Jacob Parrish, you go watch his Kansas State highlights, or was it Kansas State? Jacob Parrish. But everything you see from Jacob Parrish and everything they talk about, he's all over the field. He is. Let's see here. It's the K-State. Yep, Kansas State. So everything we see from Jacob Parrish and everything we hear about him, he's all over the field. He's playing multiple positions. They had him mostly at nickel corner, though. I would have him as our starting nickel in this scenario. So we have our two outside starters in Carlton Davis, Zion McCollum, Jamel Dean playing a depth at outside corner as a backup there. We have Jacob Parrish as the starting nickel. Let's add Benjamin Morrison to this 53-man roster too. These are two guys who they look like they're gonna have promising careers. Jason Licht went back to back. He double dipped on corner and round 2 and 3 of this draft. I'm excited to see what they can do for this team, for the Buccaneers roster, and both of those guys are competing for starting jobs at nickel and Jacob Parrish is at nickel, but they're both competing against Jamel Dean for that starting CB2 spot. And Zion McCollum, he's a guy, again, who's entering contract year. If these two guys are really promising, and if the Buccaneers decide not to re-sign him, or if he just, plays himself outside of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers price tag, maybe they look to Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison being the future of that cornerback room as a starter. So again, we got Carlton Davis, Zion McCollum on the outside. We have Jacob Parrish at nickel corner. We got Benjamin Morrison. And we got Jamel Dean as the backups. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We need one more corner. Let's go with, so I'm between Brent Grimes, who, real good guy. You got to deal with the wife Mika a little bit with some of the things she might say on social media. She might get upset sometimes. We got Brent Grimes and we got Sean Murphy-Bunting. Those are the two guys that I am between here. We have Jamel Dean and we have Carlton Davis, who at this point, do we want as a backup? Do we want, at the cornerback position, an aging veteran? Let's go with Sean Murphy-Bunting. So we'll put those, 3 of those gravediggers back together. So you got Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, and Sean Murphy-Bunting. You're getting the band back together. We got them back together in this scenario. And we have some of those new age Buccaneers corners. We've got Zion McCollum, Jacob Parrish, and Benjamin Morrison to be alongside them in that room. Now let's go to safeties. So we have a few, since 2014, a few safeties here that are some notable ones. Major Wright, veteran from the University of Florida. Bradley McDougall, who went over to the Seattle Seahawks after his time in Tampa. Deshaun Golston, who the Buccaneers signed from the 49ers. Who do we have? Mark Barron, who's a bit of a tweener. You had Chris Conte, who got stiff-armed in that Steelers game. Really, really bad. Very, kind of image-destroying moment. Keith Tandy, the Tandy man, who is a Buccaneers defensive coach now as an assistant. Justin Evans, who had, I believe, a toe injury that, he could never really recover in time from. He had a promising, he looked promising in that rookie year, but he just couldn't stay healthy. TJ Ward, the veteran who the Buccaneers signed. Jordan Whitehead, Andrew Adams, who had a 3-pick game against Cam Newton, if you remember that game. Mike Edwards, you have Antoine Winfield Jr., of course, Logan Ryan, who was a quality veteran leader on this team in that defensive, and a safety room. You have Ryan Neal, Christian Izien, who's still on this roster and is probably competing for that nickel corner also. Kavion Merriweather, Tyke Smith, who's on this team now. Marcus Banks. You have the undrafted free agent J.J. Roberts, who the Buccaneers are really high on. Todd Bowles said he has the speed of and athleticism of a corner, but he can hit you like a safety. Todd Bowles included him in the list of players who are competing for that nickelback position. Shiloh Smith, undrafted free agent. Rashad Wisdom. So we got to pick 4 of these guys. I'm gonna have Antoine Winfield, of course, as our starting strong safety. So we have Antoine Winfield there. Right alongside him, I'm gonna have Jordan Whitehead. Now Jordan Whitehead's second tenure with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers last season didn't go like it did that first time around, but Jordan Whitehead is such a hard-hitting safety. It's fun to see him out there. He looks like a G.I. Joe action figure. He's just hitting guys with his shoulder earlier on in his career. So I'm going to have Antoine Winfield and Jordan Whitehead out there as our 2 starting safeties. And I'm going to have Tyke Smith as our third safety as a backup if either one of those guys, versatile, if either one of those guys goes down, or even competing with some of those corners for the nickelback position. But Tyke Smith, he had a really good promising rookie year last year, really physical corner. The Buccaneers want to see him become more vocal during this transition from nickel to safety. We'll see if he does that, if he becomes more of a vocal communicator on that team at the safety position. So we have Antoine Winfield, we got Jordan Whitehead, we got Tyke Smith. So we need one more corner. We can go with Christian Izien, who is a really versatile guy. If you remember last year, the Buccaneers had so many injuries at corner in the game where you had Christian Izien playing outside corner, and I believe he hasn't played outside corner since high school. So he's a real versatile guy. Will do whatever you need him to do. So, a good team player there. You got Mike Edwards. I'm between Mike Edwards, Logan Ryan, if you want, a veteran in that room, but Antoine Winfield is already in that room. So, I'm between, let's go, Mike Edwards or Christian Izien or J.J. Roberts, because we haven't seen what he can do yet, but the Buccaneers are really, really high on him. So, J.J. Roberts, Christian Izien, or Mike Edwards. Mike Edwards was a ball hawk during that playoff run for the Buccaneers. If you remember picking off, he had interception or 2 possibly against Aaron Rodgers earlier in the regular season in that 2020 year. You had possibly that 2019 year, you had the pick against the Saints in the playoff game. So you have Mike Edwards, Christian Izien, J.J. Roberts. I'm going to go with let's go with Mike Edwards because of his ball hawk skills earlier on in his career, 2019 to 2022, that time frame. So we have really almost, we have the full, Gravediggers back together. We got Antoine Winfield as our starting strong safety. We got You got Jordan Whitehead, you got Mike Edwards, you got Tyke Smith, all in that safety room. So really, really, really good so far on the defensive side. Let's go over to special teams. Let's finish out our full 53-man roster with the special teams. So kicker, you got guys since 2014 like Patrick Murray, Connor Barth, Roberto Aguayo, who was from FSU, who didn't work out for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Nick Folk, veteran. Matt Gay, who didn't work out in Tampa but worked out with the Rams. Ryan Suckup, who won the Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. You have current kicker Shakes McLaughlin. I'm going to go with Ryan Suckup because he was, part of that Super Bowl run with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can also go with Chase McLaughlin. Either one of those guys you can't go really wrong with. But I'm going to go with Ryan Suckup as our starting, place kicker for this team. Punter. The Buccaneers never have been able to really find gold at that punter position. Jake Camarda had some ups and downs, but looked promising in that rookie year. But the Buccaneers released him last season. Trenton Gill was also who replaced Jake Camarda last year. Before him, you had Bradley Pinion, Brian Anger. The Buccaneers this offseason signed Riley Dixon from the Denver Broncos. Let's go with punter. Let's go with Riley Dixon. All those other guys weren't able to stick around. Let's see if Riley Dixon can stick around for this team as our starting punter. And for long snapper, over the years, Ryan DePaula, Garrison Sanborn, Zach Schreiner, or Evan Deckers. I'm gonna go with Andrew DePaula because when he was here for Tampa when I was a kid and went to training camp, I met him. He was a very nice guy. He was surprised I knew his name as a long snapper. He was a good guy. I had a good conversation with him there as a kid. So let's recap this full 53-man roster. And beginning of the episode, we went over the offense. Let's recap the defense now. So on the defensive side, at the defensive end position, again, we selected. Let's see here. We selected. As our starters, again, Kalijah Kancey. We selected 4 in total at the defensive end position for this 3-4 scheme under Todd Bowles. We had a Kalijah Kancey, who I'm really high on this year. You have Kalijah Kancey, Vita Vea in real life. Kalijah Kancey, Vita Vea, Yaya Diaby, and Haason Reddick. That's going to be a very good group to watch this season. If they can stay healthy, they're going to be a really big headache for opposing offenses next year. But you got Kalijah Kancey in this scenario. Kalijah Kancey starting opposite of Ndamukong Suh. Behind Ndamukong Suh and Kalijah Kancey, we selected Gerald McCoy and Willem Golson. If you remember, when Gerald McCoy left the team, his 93 was right away given to Ndamukong Suh. So that probably a bit disrespectful. But I'm sure everybody's moved on from that since then. But those are going to be our 4 defensive ends. At nose tackle, Vita Vea, Greg Gaines. Besides Vita Vea, Buccaneers, there's no other guy that's been like Vita Vea, or even close to his production for this team, or, as good as if he goes down, somebody could come in and take his role, be at least half as good as him. I don't think anybody that Tampa Bay Buccaneers have signed so far or drafted can do that, but Greg Gaines has provided quality depth whenever Vita Vea needs a breather. At outside linebacker, edge rushers, we selected 6 guys. Our 2 starters are Shaq Barrett and JPP, Jason Pierre-Paul. Behind Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett, again, we got Yaya Diaby and we got Haason Reddick. And behind Yaya Diaby and Haason Reddick, we selected Chris Braswell and David Walker. 2 guys who the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the NFL, we haven't got to see yet. What can they do? We saw Chris Braswell a little bit last year, but we haven't really got to see what can these guys do at the NFL level. What will they look like in a short amount of time? We'll get to see as their young careers continue to progress. And inside linebacker, we selected 4. Of course, Lavonte David being one of our starting inside linebackers. You have Savassi Dennis, who we selected, but we have Devin White as the opposite inside linebacker starting next to Lavonte David. If we're getting those early first 2 years of Devin White, you're getting a really good starter. Savassi Dennis in that room also, and we selected Deion Jones. If somebody needs to play, Deion Jones has a lot of veteran leadership, has already flashed at times in over the offseason OTAs. So he's a guy, inside linebacker for this team in real life, for the Buccaneers in real life, looked pretty bad, and the Buccaneers decided not to. Not bad necessarily, but just didn't look. It's not a strength of this team necessarily, but the Buccaneers believe a lot in Lavonte David. If he can stay healthy for the Buccaneers, they believe they have a really good player in Lavonte David. I believe they have a really good player in Lavonte David also. He can really pass cover. He can get to the quarterback. We saw that at Pitt, but he can really also be good in coverage. But we selected Devin White, Lavonte David, Lavonte David, and Deion Jones. At the cornerback position, we have Carlton Davis and Zion McCollum being our CB1 and CB2. Zion McCollum being our CB1. You have at nickel, we selected Jacob Parrish. Behind Jacob Parrish, you have Sean Murphy-Bunting. Those guys can also play outside a bit. Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. Todd Bowles has not been scared to say he's a guy who, even though he's smaller in stature, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like longer, lengthier corners, he's a guy who can play inside or outside, so he's going to be fun to watch. The Buccaneers feel like they can plug him, anywhere and for inside or outside at the cornerback position. Benjamin Morrison also. So we selected those 6: Carlton Davis, Jamel Dean, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Zion McCollum, Jacob Parrish, Benjamin Morrison as our 6 cornerbacks for this roster. At safety, of course, we have Antoine Winfield Jr., Jordan Whitehead, strong hitting safety, Tyke Smith, and we selected Mike Edwards for his early ball hawk skills for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So those are our 4 safeties. Kicker, again, we selected Ryan Suckup, who helped us win the Super Bowl in 2020. Riley Dixon, who is the newly free agent of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And at long snapper, I selected Ryan DePaula as our long snapper. So I had a lot of fun making these past 2 videos, constructing this ultimate 53-man roster. And the caveat, of course, was they had to be players from the Jason Licht era, from 2014 to now. It's the offseason, of course. There's quite a bit of time before training camp starts on July 24th and July 25th. So as a Buccaneers content creator, of course, you gotta find ways to make good content still. I believe this was the last 2 episodes, 2 really good episodes, 2 fun episodes, something a little bit different, creating an ultimate 53-man roster. Of course, during draft season, you have mock drafts, and this is a bit similar to that. This is more of like a fantasy draft, but I had a lot of fun making this ultimate 53-man roster. If you liked what you heard this episode and last episode or whatever episode you've seen so far, please hit that like button and please subscribe. It helps out the algorithm. It helps get our content across to more Bucs fans like yourselves. So please subscribe if you haven't already. Please hit the like button. I just want to thank you guys for all your support so far. I've been having a lot of fun making Buccaneers content. I'm excited to see, how the Tampa Bay Buccaneers do this season. I think they're going to do really, really well if they can stay healthy. But I'm excited to continue to bring you guys more content as, we move along here. And thank you guys for watching. I'm your host, Daniel Morales, signing out. Bye-bye.